Hi my little bunnies, how are you today? I'm going to be doing a cooking video with you. I am making Sunday dinner for my girls. My daughter's going back to college today, so I figured I'd make her a nice Sunday dinner. And yeah, so I'm going to show you how I make baked macaroni and cheese. But in the meantime, I'm going to be doing it sitting here because it's much easier for filming purposes. I have right here a hot plate in front of me, so I will be using that to boil my elbow macaroni. I'm not going to tell you all the ingredients just yet because we're going to start off with boiling first, and then when we get into the actual making it, I'm going to tell you everything you're going to need, and I'm going to show you how to prepare that. So in the meantime, we're going to take a pot of boiling water and we're going to stick it on top of this hot plate, and we're going to allow this to boil. Normally what I do is I wait until my water is boiled before I pour in my pasta. But what I did was I started off with warmer water. That way it heats up faster. So I'm just going to go ahead for the sake of this video and pour in the elbow macaroni. It's just basically elbow macaroni is just macaroni, like macaroni and cheese pasta. But plain, of course. And this is a 16-ounce box, so it gives you a nice sized pan. A lot of times you think because the box is small, you know, you'd be like, oh, is that going to be enough when you're trying to make a big pan? But once this cooks and expands, it is quite a lot. So, yeah, so we're just going to go ahead and pour this off into the box. Some of you like to wash your pasta before you boil it to wash some of the starch off. But to tell you the truth, it's better to boil it with the starch in there and then to wash it off when you're finished boiling. So I put that in there and I'm going to go ahead and let it boil. I'm going to add a pinch of salt. That just kind of helps with the boiling process. And let it go ahead and boil. You can put some butter in there if you're afraid of sticking. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I just don't even think about it or worry about it. I'm just going to give it a quick stir and let it do its business, and I will get back to you. Okay, my little bunnies, I decided to go ahead and put my pasta on the stove instead of on the hot plate. Just a faster process. I have to work out some kinks with my hot plate because it is new and I'm just getting used to it. So in the meantime, while we're waiting on our pasta to boil, I'm going to go ahead and start on the ham. So what I have here is a Smithfield ham, and this particular ham is let me see, it's 8.72 pounds. So it's an 8-pound ham, almost 9-pound ham, and it has a bone. Normally I buy boneless. I buy Dearborn hams or honey baked hams, but they had a great one on sale for just a couple dollars a pound. So I went ahead and actually it was 99 cents a pound, which you guys know is great for a ham. So I'm going to go ahead and wash my ham. I do not cook my ham in its natural juices. I like to clean my ham and then I add my own juices and mix together my own concoction. So I will show you that as soon as I'm done washing my ham. Okay, you guys, I am back and I have my ham here and I have it nice and washed and in the pan. As I said, this is an already cooked ham, but they still want you to cook it 15 to 20 minutes per pound. And so that's basically like 2 hours, a little over 2 hours I still have to cook this, which is crazy for an already cooked ham, but we're going to follow the directions because we don't want nobody sick by eating pork, right? So what I'm going to do is I am going to leave my fat on. Of course you want to do that because your fat builds up the juices and makes it succulent. You don't have to eat the fat if you're not a fat eater, but what I'm going to do is start preparing the glaze for this and the juices. So right here I have some sliced pineapples, and this is actually pineapple rings, and then I have some pineapple syrup. You can use the juice if you choose to, but it's going to be a little bit more liquefied if you do. I also have some of these cherries, and I do have a ham glaze that I am going to test out and see how it tastes. It basically says that it has the glaze, the cherries and pineapple in it. I'm going to try it out. I might not like it, so I got it anyway just in case. And then I also have some brown sugar, and we're going to get busy. So let me go ahead and pour over my pineapple juice, or syrup I should say. If you don't like this method, you don't have to use it. You can find another glaze or look online or wherever, but this is just how I did some brown sugar. So right here I have some dark brown sugar, and you can use the light. I like to use the dark because the dark has molasses in it, and it helps with that crystallization and browning and just nice tasting. And you just, of course, make sure your hands are clean, wear gloves if you choose to, and just give this a rub all over that ham. And this is just the back part of the ham so far. So we're just gonna put that on there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and turn it around and allow the juices from the pineapple to get on there. Well, I serenade it with a little brown sugar on the front. You can put as much or less as you want. I just eyeball it. I don't have a particular amount that I use. And you're just gonna serenade that and rub that into the front of the meat. Bit more on there. And this will soak all into that meat. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and flip that back down, and then what we're going to do is we're going to add our pineapples and our cherries to the top and start adding my pineapples. You need some toothpicks for this process, because you're going to be adding cherries also. And the great thing is the pineapple stick to the ham, and you can put as much as you want on there. So now we're going to take our toothpicks. We're going to take our toothpicks and we're going to just press one in there just to make sure that it stays. And then we're going to go ahead and add our cherries, which you also need toothpicks for. So if you don't have a lot of toothpicks and you only have a few, don't use them on holding the pineapple because they will stay. I just do that for an extra thing. But if you only have a few toothpicks, save them for your cherries. And just stick your cherry right into your ham, right in between the little hole of the let me just take this cap off. Right into the little hole of your pineapple, just like this. And you can put 2 or 3 on this to each toothpick if you want to. It's up to you. So I'm gonna go ahead and add all my cherries, and I will be back. Guys, she is all decorated and she is ready for the oven. I'm just gonna pour a little bit of this cherry juice right on top of the ham just to give it an extra sweetness. And she is going in the oven, baby. So I'm about to cover her with aluminum foil. I have my oven set to 325 degrees, and it's gonna go in there for 2 hours and possibly 10 minutes, depending, because everybody's stove is different. I have a convectional oven, so that seems to transfer heat good enough for it to not have to go in there as long as instructions call for, but we will see. So I'm gonna cover this with tin foil, pop it in the oven, and I will see you guys soon. Okay, my little bunnies, I am back, and now we are going to prepare our baked macaroni and cheese. So first and foremost, we already boiled off our elbow macaroni, and we washed it with hot water. And the reason why I wash it with hot water is because I don't want to bring the temperature down, because I want my butter and stuff to melt. So we got our macaroni here, and we have a dish here. I'm just going to pour that right into the dish. You want to get all that pasta, right? So now that we have it poured off into here, I'm going to give it a quick chop up, because you know some of them pasta noodles stick together a little bit. And we're going to do that. And what we're going to do is start off with adding some butter. So I have this butter at room temperature. You can use cold from the fridge, but I choose not to because already the whipping, the milk, the heavy whipping cream we're going to be adding is going to cool it down. So I don't want too many things to cool down my pasta. So I'm adding my butter, and we're just going to, it's just one stick. Make sure you don't use margarine, use butter, because that gives it everything. Butter, when they require butter in certain things, some people use margarine thinking it's practically the same thing, but butter has a very unique taste to it, and when they say butter, they mean butter. So always do the butter. Okay, so now that my stick of butter is chopped up and melting in there, it may not completely melt because I'm sure your pasta would have cooled down unless you did it right away. It's okay because it's going to melt in the oven, but try to get it as melted as possible. And then what we're going to do is add an egg. Yes, an egg, but we have to temper our egg first because we don't want our egg to turn into scrambled mess inside of our mac and cheese. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of the pasta and we're going to put it inside of the egg just to allow the egg to get used to the heat without pouring, because if you pour it straight in like really hot stuff, it will scramble. So you just want to temper it and allow it to slowly get used to the heat and give it a stir or whisk. Okay. So now that that egg has warmed up and got used to that warmth of that pasta, I'm going to pour it all inside of my dish. And now we're going to let it flip all through our pasta and butter. Last thing you want is macaroni and cheese scramble. Well, that might be good, but that's not what I'm trying to accomplish here, so we'll save that for another time. Okay, so now that we got our butter is melted all the way and we got our egg in here, always make sure you pour your butter in before you pour any cold ingredients in, because the coolness is going to cause the butter not to melt. So you always want to put your butter in first, then your egg. Temper your egg first, of course. And it should look like this. Just a, you know, just like that, okay? And it might be a little slimy because that egg white's in there, but it's okay. That's what you want. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and add my salt and pepper. You can do this in any order you choose to, but just do the butter thing like I said, because you don't want to make it where your butter doesn't melt all the way. Even though it's going to melt in the oven, it won't be like evenly through the pasta. Okay, and here's our salt. Put as much as you choose to. If you want to leave that out, you can, because remember there is salt in cheese, but it's not going to be as delicious if you don't add. Plus, if you get salted butter, you don't need as much salt. Okay, and some people like to put, I've seen people use cracker crusts. I've seen people use like Ritz crackers or the Cheez-It crackers. Me, myself, I personally don't like that method. Some people use, there's so many different ways to make baked macaroni and cheese, but I'm using some evaporated milk, and this is by Pep. I am not in no kind of way sponsoring any kind of company for any of these brands. This is just what I choose to use. So I use the Pep milk, and it is evaporated milk. I think Carnation has evaporated milk. Kroger has their own, like they have store brand. And I'm just pouring that right in here. And I'm just gonna allow that. And this is gonna be very, very wet. I just wanna tell you that. But once you put it in the oven and everything sticks together, it's going to be so delicious. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add my heavy whipping cream. And you wanna use the whole thing. And this is just a pint. Now, if you use 2 boxes, 16 ounce, you want to use more than a pint and more than 1 can. This recipe calls for a 16 ounce box of elbow macaroni. Okay. Now what I'm gonna do is add my cheese, and I will be using mild cheddar, sharp cheddar, and the mild cheddar jack. Okay. Add a little more. This is a 16-ounce bag, and I'm gonna put less than half in there because I'm gonna be using different kinds of cheese mix. So I'm gonna mix that. You could also put your cheese in there when you put your butter in there if you want it to melt right away, but this process really doesn't matter because it is going to melt once you bake it. So this process does not matter. And then I'm gonna add some mild cheddar jack. Now this process, you want a lot of cheese if you want a gooey macaroni and cheese, right? So I'm gonna use a little more than half of this one. And to tell you the truth, you do not want to make this for your family all the time because it is very, very fattening. Very fattening. This is almost like a really rich dessert. It's so fattening. So this is something you want to do on occasion. But I just love, like, my ham's in the oven, and I'm going to make some yams, and I'm going to make some greens and cornbread. And I was going to make mashed potatoes, but I figured, now, you know what? I'm making the macaroni and cheese. I'm just gonna leave it there. And I'm gonna fry up some chicken and make my special sauce. I can't wait to show you guys that. So we got some of that in there, and I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit more of that mild cheddar jack, or a lot more, because this is the inside of your macaroni, and you want it to be really cheesy. Otherwise, what's the point of making it, right? And the rest of the bag. I just like to do a little at a time so I know what I'm working with, right? And already that's juice, that milk and everything is all cream, and everything is already sucking up. And if it doesn't, don't be scared, because you want it to be wet. I probably should have used, okay. Alrighty, so now it is time to do our topping of cheese. Ooey gooey cheese. So I'm just flattening everything out, making it even on all sides so we have an even bake. Okay. And now we're going to top off our macaroni and cheese with some sharp cheddar. You can use mild cheddar if you choose to, which I have mild cheddar there. I'm going to actually mix them. So in this process, you want to dig in, because you want to even it out, right? Okay, and then I'm going to switch off to my mild cheddar. You want to get it all in the corners and everything. Who doesn't like that burnt crust on the sides of cheese? Like, ugh. You want to cover it completely. Yes, lots and lots of cheese. If you don't want this much cheese or don't like this much cheese, you do not have to do it. But if you want it to taste as good as mine, add all that cheese. Okay, so now we have everything mixed together, and I'm going to put it in the oven. Right now, I preset my oven already. Always preset your oven. That way it's ready to just go right in. I set it to 375. You're going to cover this up with tin foil, and you're going to put it in the oven for 375 for about 45 minutes to an hour. I give it normally about an hour. or until, just because everybody's oven's different, or until it is thoroughly cooked in the middle. And how you know that is when you go to lift it with the fork, you should see no cream, no liquid. It should be gelled together. So I will show you guys what it looks like when it is all done. Here I have my yams cut up and they're cooked. They're in syrup, and I'm going to actually make a yam concoction. So we're going to start off with adding some brown sugar. Put as much as you like, depending on the sweetness you want them to be. Yum, yum, yum. Brown sugar loves to stick. Alrighty. So we have our brown sugar in here. Now we're going to add a little bit of syrup to thicken and sweeten a little bit. Maple syrup. One thing about yams also is when you're making the right yams, they're very sweet and rich. Some juices all over there. And then you want to add some butter, which I will be using a little more than half a stick. I'm going to chop up some pieces and lay them everywhere. Oh, yeah. So I'm just going to marinate that everywhere. And at this point, you can add nutmeg, you can add cinnamon. If you want allspice, like with the apple spice stuff, you can add that if you want. You can put peaches in here if you like. All of that in the above. Add some cinnamon. I like mine to taste like southern styled yams. So we add some cinnamon to that. Give it a stir. And you want to add enough of the sweetness because yams can fool you. You know, sometimes they appear to be sweet, and then when you go to cook them and take them out the oven, they're not as sweet as you thought they would be. So you want to be careful with the little you put unless you want it that way. So now I'm gonna give it a taste. See what I mean? I'm gonna add a little bit more syrup. And this should do it. Okay, so we're gonna allow that to bake in the oven and get nice and juicy and succulent and sweet and buttery. I'm putting it in the oven. Yes, I am. So I'm actually gonna put tin foil on this so it can marinate and cook and all the juices can flow inside of the pan. And I'm gonna pop it in the oven. I'm gonna put it in there with my baked macaroni and cheese, which is actually at 375, and let it just cook. Okay, so I will see you guys. So now we're gonna start working on our special sauce. For our chicken wings, because I'm frying up my chicken wings now. So now we're gonna make a sauce. Some people use buffalo sauce, some people use barbecue sauce. The key is to pour it on while the chicken is extremely hot, just coming out of the grease, because it bakes it on there and it's delicious. But I'm gonna start off with some of this sriracha hot chili sauce, and you can find this in your foreign foods like a Kroger or anything like that, but in the section where they have Asian, you want to use that. And then you're going to need lots of honey. Okay, so here's our, and you need a whisk. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and take the lid off my sauce. And this sauce is spicy and sweet, and it's so good. If you don't like spicy, you will not like this because it is hot. But the more honey you put in it, the less you concentrate on the spice, on the heat. So I'm going ahead and pouring that in there. And then I'm going to go ahead and add our honey. Lots and lots of honey. When I told my oldest daughter, she loves these wings. So does my youngest daughter. My oldest daughter really loves them. And when I told her I was making them, she's like, can you just add a lot extra honey? And I'm like, yes, I'll pick up another one because I knew I only had half. So I picked up another honey. Honey is not cheap either. I think I paid $12, $12.99 or something like that for this big thing of honey. And it's only 2 pounds, which is 8 ounces, and it's not expensive. And then this one, I think I paid maybe $6 for. So they're pretty expensive. And I'm gonna go ahead and lid that and keep this upside down so the rest of the honey can drip. I'm so sorry you hear Sophie down there. She is playing with the kids. And we're gonna go ahead and whisk that, and then we're gonna give it a try. So you'll notice it really thick, and then the honey breaks it down and it makes it thinner as you stir and mix. Sophie, stop it! And then the color kind of changes. It goes from an orange to a red, but you can smell the heat. But it's so delicious at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a little try. And I think I'm going to add a little more honey. Or a lot more honey, I should say. Very spicy. And a little bit of this sauce goes a long way. But I'm cooking a 5-pound bag of chicken wings. So we need a lot of sauce. Perfect. Nice and sweet, spicy, delicious. Love it. Okay, so I'm going to cap on my honey. And our sauce is done. And when our wings are done, as I said, you take them out, put them on a paper towel so you can drain some of the grease. Pour them in your pan, like whether it's an aluminum pan or a pan you're using for your chicken wings, and pour that sauce on top while they are bubbly hot. That is the key, because the heat from the chicken wings will actually bake it onto the chicken, so it's not like runny and stuff. But it's so delicious. You guys have to try this. As I said, you can pick, and I think I paid like $3 and some change for this big bottle, and you don't even need a whole bunch of it. And then you just buy your honey, and that's how you make that sauce. It's delicious. Try it out. I'll see you guys. Okay, so this is our finishing touches. We got our greens, our baked macaroni and cheese, our yams, our special sauce chicken, and our ham. So we're all set, ready to go.